Welcome back to Town Line Garage. Today we're working on our 93 Ford Bronco. We're getting some new headers put on it. The old one's done rotted right out. Hope you stick around. Well, we waited till it's about 17 degrees out to mess around with the 93 Ford Bronco. She's got a 351 Windsor in it. Not exactly stock. The headers that are on it rotted out, and the 3.5-inch exhaust doesn't quite cover up that ticky tick tick tack 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 pop pop smacking sound of that those holes. So we got some of the cheapest headers we could find. These are from Summit Racing. I'll put the part number down in the comments, but the flange thickness is pretty decent on them. They look just about like what's on there. The important thing I was looking for is this ball flange on the collector. I've had a lot better luck with these holding up versus the the typical header collector gasket. So we're gonna get this nice shiny paint off of here because these are shipped with just I don't know what they use. It doesn't last, so it's not meant to. We've got some VHT ultra high temp coating we're going to use. We're going to get this paint stripped off of here. We'll go over to the MIG welder and snip off the smog, and then we'll show you how that comes out, and we'll go and dig into the vehicle. This will probably be a 2 or 3 day thing. Tonight we're just getting the paint stripped off. It's Friday after work, and then tomorrow I'll come back once that stripper's done doing its thing, and we'll get some paint on them, and then probably Sunday we'll try and snip them on there. Right now I'm going to throw some gloves on, grab my chip brush, I'm going to schmuck this stuff on here, and I think it's supposed to give about 15 minutes, and I think try to hit it with a Scotch-Brite and see if that brings her to bare metal. Important thing to note, I've had this stuff sitting inside because the garage is pretty cold. You can see my breath a little bit. It's like 17 out ish. This stuff that I've used in the past does not like cold weather, so I've had this sitting inside as well as these. Wood stove's getting warm anyway. Alright, well here's where we're at after about 15 minutes or so. I already started sampling a little bit with the scuff pad. I don't want the stuff to dry up, get all crusty. So I'm going to put my gloves back on here, and we're just going to kind of go across everything. Try and get this paint off of here. Seems to be working pretty decent. See what we can do. Alright, so here we are the next day. Got the garage warming up here. These things have been kind of cooking on the stove just to make sure they're a good temp for paint. I actually forgot. Got to do a little bit of fabricational work here. I'm just going to come in with the cutoff wheel, snip this, snip that, clean up anything we need to. Probably just cut a chunk of this off, flatten it out a bit, and then plug this hole up here. If that doesn't work, I'll just grab a washer and stack a couple of them up and we'll call it a day. Once I get that welded in there, get them painted so they can sit and hopefully throw them on tomorrow. Alright, well, we're getting ready to paint these things. Got that smog tube all chopped off. These things have been kind of sitting on the stove, cooking a little bit. Did go ahead and wipe these down with some paint prep, wax and grease remover. Instead of finding another piece here, I ended up kind of just pie cutting out a little bit of that remaining section. I left about yay long, and then grabbed the map gas and just kind of folded her over. That way I just zipped across the middle of that. Good enough for who it's for. So we got these warmed up, we got our paint all shook up. We are using this we're using VHT Flameproof low gloss black. Got her all shook up. It's about 65 in here. Paint's been sitting in a warm location, headers are in a warm location, got everything wiped down, hopefully good enough. Starting out here, we're sitting on the cardboard. It's going to take a while to get all the paint around all these tubes, so I'm going to do what I can here on a flat surface, and then I'm going to go up the back of the bench where I got some scraps of baling wire, and I'll probably grab one of these bolt holes and kind of do the whole hang and spray, and then we'll get them hung up like that. We'll see how she comes out. Well, we got that first one done there. Seems to be laying down pretty good. The spray pattern on these cans are pretty nice. I'm always surprised how many people don't know how to use a spray can. But you see a lot either really quick or people just kind of and it just lays right down and runs. Just, as long as you pay attention to what the paint's doing, you can get some really nice results out of a rattle can. So most stuff will tell you, and it's fair, that start by dusting a light coat on. That's kind of what I did on the last one. Kind of spritz it down. As that first coat's going down, you can kind of see, is it gonna stick? Is it gonna lift? Do I have any fisheye starting to show up? And then these headers are warm from sitting on the stove, so the stuff's drying really quickly. So I can almost, by the time you get around all the tubes and everything, you kind of are ready to go into your second light coat by the time I get it on the wire. So it kind of a coat and a half-ish in. So there's so many nooks and crannies, it's going to take a while to get all the paint everywhere. Each coat I'm sure will find some place that I missed. Again, with these being hot, I'm laying this down a little bit thicker than what I normally would if this was cold, or maybe if it wasn't prepped as well. And I wasn't a stickler about getting absolutely all the paint out of the middle here, because there's just areas that you can't get into. If you want, a really nice job, you're probably not going to be rattle canning. If you want the best rattle can you can get, you're probably going to at least walk over to a sandblaster, which I don't have. And that's fine. This will be plenty good. I'm sure this will flake off less than what was on there. See, with this being a low gloss paint, the shine's going away really quickly, so it's drying fast, which is nice. Scrap the wire. Do like the last one, I'll go for the front. Hopefully see some areas that we missed. Hopefully these aren't too hot, so that the paint will not want to stick right, but we'll find out. Heavier part like this, I'm going to give myself 2 loops. Really cinch my fingers off and I'll probably lose feeling, but that way the left hand will match the spray finger. This does really poorly, with this just being a, not a show rig. I can always pop back in the engine bay and throw some cardboard down and hit the wire brush and spritz some of this on later too. Some people might argue about painting this side of the flange. I'd rather have paint where it needs to be than worry about a little bit of extra paint between the gasket. I don't think it's going to hurt anything. If you really wanted to pull it back off, you could come back with a wire brush or a Scotch-Brite right there. Come back to this other one here. I'm sure this is tacked up pretty good. Yeah, we got a couple areas that aren't quite. Go ahead and lay it down a little bit thicker in this round. Trying to change the angles that I'm looking at this at, because I know a lot of nooks and crannies. rotate back, and I'm going to do one more coat on this one. We'll probably call that good enough. Well, here we are. We got a heat wave. It's about 30, so we're going to start digging into the headers on this thing. So, a little closer view of what we're working with here. She needs an oil change too. So, everything's pretty easy to get at. We're going to try and sneak these in there and hope everything lines up. Alright, well that's not too bad. I could get to about half the bolts with the 1/4 inch drive ratchet, the other half with a wrench, and we're gonna scoot down in the snow and get the collector, which I should have done first. Alright, we got our old one out of there on the driver's side anyway. That's what was giving us grief there. You can see she got some holes in her. Hey, look, pretty near the same. A little bit different on the valve flange here. Hopefully that'll be alright. You don't need to put any gaskets on these. Keep that in mind. That's the reason for the valve flange. You cinch them down, bolt and lock washer, and she'll be alright. Alright, well, guess we'll go snake this new one in there. Sounds like snacks. Alright, so our gaskets have slotted bolts on the ends, so that should let us sneak those in after we get these started. Let's see how much never sees I can get everywhere. Sure, I'll look like the Silver Surfer when I'm done with this. At least take out a pair of gloves. I'm sure I'll touch a bunch of stuff with them later. Yep. The only thing really in the way is the dipstick tube, which the bracket was rusted right off, which that's nice. So she just snapped. I guess I'll be going back onto the interwebs for one of those soon. Shouldn't be much cleaning. The old Mr. Gasket Ultra Seals popped right back off. That's what we're putting on here today. Open up the package, realized I got the rectangular port. I'll just pretend I didn't see that and slide them in there anyway. Get the end two bolts started, sneak our gasket in there, and then walk them in. Just barely starting those bolts because some of these are probably going to take some finesse to get around the tubes. We have the collector hanging down there. I'm pushing, fighting with a little bit. So let's see if that'll... Come on, work with me here. It wants me to push down, which I guess. I'm going to put one of these in there to hold it while I get the back bolt started, because there's a little bit of spring back in my exhaust, because I still have the passenger side connected, which is fine. I didn't want everything falling down. Come on now. There we go. Maybe. Nope. Nope. All right. These are my Mr. Gasket Ultra Seals, my favorite header gasket. I was actually surprised the stuff that came with the Summit headers were actually pretty decent. If I didn't have anything, I would run them. Let's see how they came out. Come on now. Well, I gotta pull that bolt back out. I knew that. Yep. There we go. I'm gonna get all these started before I get anything closer to the, too much closer to the head. Something I was reading the back of the can for the VHT paint, and it has a curing process you can do on or off the vehicle. Off the vehicle, you really need an oven, which I don't have in my garage. I don't think a lot of people do. But I had the wood stove going, so I tried to do the first round on top of the old stove, and I was surprised to see how soft the paint got. I actually got a couple scuffs from me touching it. It got downright gooey during that first round of curing. Now, mind you, when I set it down on the stove, the paint was completely dry. I let it run its 30 minutes or whatever at 200 or whatever the heck it told me to do, and they were gooey. Alright, so this one's wanting to go down. Yep. Got the gloves off. Ooh, 3/8 set, even better. That'll be easier to get to. Go grab a new socket and a different wrench. Give the knees a break. Oh. Ah. Alright, we got the captain side all done. When we were down putting the collector gasket on this side, we popped the bolts off of the passenger side there. We're going to scooch on over to that side rig. Hopefully this goes just as smooth. See what happens. Alright, well, we got the passenger side off. Just doing a little side by each comparison here. Looks reasonable. Boy, this one was a little bit more of a bear. Basically every single bolt I had to use a wrench. Could not get a socket into them. Hopefully without having the wrap this one will be a little bit easier, but this back guy here, I had to shut the camera down. I had to just stand on my head in there. So see if we can get a spot to set this thing and snip this new one in there. We'll see how long the batteries last. The GoPros don't like the cold weather. The battery's just sucking right down. Yep. Yep. Trying not to break the spark plugs, although make a nice rest. There's one. Now, stand on my head. Oh yeah. Yep. 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 Nope. Yep. Maybe put it kinda. Well. I'll be Not so bad. Alrighty. Sneak the gasket in there. If it'll let me. Too tight already? Well. Alright, well, guess I'll loosen this one up because I don't want to do that back one again. Just fighting that collector gasket a little bit again on the bottom. There we go. Well, we tried to do it the right way. This is the side that would have had that smog pump sticking out. We did a delete on that. I think we grabbed one off of a Mustang. But still trying to figure out the right length belt because this one still squeals a bit. Need one just a tad shorter. Cooling down. It's probably 4:30. The sun was out earlier. I could feel my fingers. Not so much at the moment. But a little bit of anti-seize on these and not having that wrap to deal with, they should go in hopefully quicker. Don't know if I'm going to get around to doing the curing tonight. Just having them on here so I can come out and run it. It's like a half hour on, half hour off, kind of a sequence. And we can do that anytime. Collector bolts did come with these nice mechanical lock nuts. I did go ahead and add lock washers to it, because, you know, your exhaust isn't loose until it's loose. And it won't hurt nothing to have spring lock washers on top of mechanical lock nuts. That'll be fine. Plus that's what was on there, and they held together pretty darn good. This thing bounced around in the dunes a few times, and that exhaust stayed right where I put it. So it worked before. Just gotta keep following suit. This engine is I think a mid-70s 351 Windsor. The Bronco itself is a 93. It did have a fuel injected Windsor in it. This drivetrain's actually out of a 85 Bronco frame that I had. I say frame because the frame had a pickup cab on it and a really, really short truck box. That was a fun rig. But the axles and engine and trans got pulled off of that and put into this 93. This body's starting to fall off of this one too, so we worked on the driver's side last winter. And ooh, they even give you an extra bolt. That's handy. But yeah, it's a mishmash of parts. Try going to the parts counter, you just start singing Johnny Cash one piece at a time, and eventually you'll get to the right year, depending on which part you're You put this stuff together, you think you remember what year piece you use out of what and which wear and what configuration, but eventually it just kind of all blends together. So write stuff down. Thank yourself later, or whoever gets your rig, you can hand them that sheet too. That's always nice. They sell stuff. C6 transmission behind this thing. She's been rebuilt on. This motor is rebuilt 10-ish years ago. It does have a, I think it's got a scat crank. I know the last one got washed out. It had a fuel pump issue and washed the bearings out. And the crank had already been ground, so. Scat crank, flat top pistons, heads have been shaved down. 10 thou, 15 thou, I don't know, like I said, I don't write the stuff down, I should have wrote it down. It does need premium. It should have about 10-to-1 compression, 10.5-to-1-ish. Not essential for plowing, but it was originally a bounce around buggy. Went from dual purpose to pretty much mostly plowing now. Definitely easier to get to these bolts without that wrap on there. Well, we got her fired up. All the GoPro batteries are dead, so switch over to the cell phone. On the mount for the old dipstickaroo there. I did have it baling wired out of the old headers, but since this one's rotted through now, I'll have to get a new dipstick. And Summit did give me a mount, which is pretty nice. Here's a little dipstick bracket I was talking about. It's nice that they give you that. Other folks have bought from the, you gotta make that from scratch, which that's not too bad too, but it's nice to have that from a house brand. These are the gaskets that came with. I want to show those real quick. That's really pretty good. I bought headers in the past, and usually they'll give you the paper junk that blows out 30 seconds after. And this is like what Velcro would give you for an OE kind of a replacement on your manifolds. No, we're not putting manifolds on, it's a header, but I'm going to save on those. It's nice to have spares around. We're going to get on the interweb and we'll put this to good use too. Might spritz some paint on that. I can't complain about this Summit kit. Here's your gaskets we ran. Well folks, we're getting the garage shut down for the night. We got the exhaust all on the Bronco. Things are sealed up good. If that VHT paint starts falling off of there, I'll do an update. If you don't see anything, just assume it's staying there. We'll go through the heat cycling that it tells you to on the back of the can. Y'all can read that if you get some yourself. But it's good to have that exhaust leak taken care of. That ticking was getting pretty noisy for plowing at night. It's got pipes on it, but that header leak was a little bit different tone. Now, you know, youngster wants to go for a ride. We're good not having that exhaust coming in the cab as well. So, pretty impressed with those Summit headers. It's really close to what was on there. I don't remember if they were Summit that was on there before, if it was a Headman or what it was, but it's nice to see. Even if the old ones were Summit, they're just as good, if not better, of a setup now. Nothing against the header wrap. I used to use it a lot. That's been on there for 10, 15, maybe 20 years. So they really held up pretty good. I'm not going to put it on there again because it's not as serious of a rig at this point in time. But if you stuck around this long, appreciate it. Hit that like and subscribe button. That'd be great. Till next time, keep it between the ditches. Adios.